Board of Railway Commissioners ordered Union Station built in 1905. Construction didn't begin until 1914, and it opened in 1927, having been delayed by World War I material shortages and the collapse of the Grand Trunk Railway. A number of architects collaborated on the new design, including the Montreal firm of G.A. Ross and R.H. Macdonald, Hugh Jones of the CPR, and John M. Lyle of Toronto. Designed in the Beaux-Arts style, it is the largest and most opulent station erected in Canada. Monumental in design, the Great Hall features a coffered vault ceiling of Gustavino tiles. The shape of the ceiling is echoed in the four-story barrel-vaulted windows on the east and west walls. In 1975, Union Station was declared a National Historic Site and has remained a significant hub in Canada's transportation network. The Fairmont Royal York Hotel was built by the Canadian Pacific Railway, and when it first opened its doors on June 11, 1929, it was the tallest building and largest hotel of the British Commonwealth. Designed by architects Ross and Macdonald in collaboration with Hugh G. Jones and John Lyle, the architectural style of this epitome of hospitality seems open to a bit of debate. Built in the style of modern classicism, its decorative elements include Art Deco, Neo-Gothic, Beaux-Arts, and a chateau-style copper roof. The main structural components are comprised of a steel and concrete frame clad with Indiana limestone and brick. The hotel underwent a large restoration effort in the late 1980s and early 1990s, bringing it back to the splendor we see today. Designed by WZMH Architects in 1976 and the winner of a design competition, Royal Bank Plaza was completed in 1979. Two gold, bronze, glass, and granite towers, 180 and 112 meters high, are linked by a 12-story glass atrium, which encloses a trading floor capable of hosting up to 400 traders. The 24-karat gold window glazing is an excellent insulator and creates a beautiful mosaic of reflected sunlight. The property was LEED certified twice, first in 2010 and again in 2015. The Toronto Dominion Centre is comprised of 6 smaller structures. Construction of the first building began in 1964, and the last building reached completion in 1991. The contributing architects consisted of Bergman and Hammond, John B. Parkins, and Mies van der Rohe filling the role of design consultant. Mies was given free rein to design as he pleased, and this effort signaled the end of his North American period. This set of buildings received a Toronto Historic Building designation in 2003. Designed by architect Edward Durrell Stone, construction began on First Canadian Place in 1973 and finished just 2 years later in 1975. It is unrivaled as Canada's tallest business landmark, towering 72 stories above Toronto's financial district. This Brookfield property was ahead of its time, exceeding building code requirements and operational standards. It was built in the International architectural style and comprised of glass, steel, stone, marble, and reinforced concrete. Extensive renovations were completed in 2012, including infrastructure upgrades, resulting in LEED Gold certification. First Canadian Place has been the tallest skyscraper in Canada for over 4 decades. The 26-story limestone-clad concrete and steel structure is truly a stunning example of Beaux-Arts architecture. Designed by John M. Lyle, who was also responsible for Union Station, the project was shelved in 1929 because of the Great Depression. Lyle never lived to see his designs built, but shortly after his death in 1945, architects Mathers and Haldenby, in cooperation with Beck and Eadie, revived the plans and the building was completed in 1951. The beautiful hand-carved facades by Frederick Winkler depict Neptune and Rhea. The New Scotia Plaza opened its doors in 1989 as the second tallest building in Canada and currently holds 3rd place at 275 meters. The iconic skyscraper, an apt term in this case, was designed in the postmodern style by WZMH Architects and is composed of a staggering 68 stories above ground and 6 below. Formed of high-strength reinforced concrete rather than steel, the folds in the massing of the structure are meant to complement its height while creating multiple corner offices on each floor. Both interior and exterior are clad with Napoleon red granite and complemented by dark tinted glass windows. Designed by Pearson and Darling Architects in cooperation with US-based York and Sawyer, the first building, a 34-story Beaux-Arts structure of limestone-clad concrete and steel, features 4 giant carved heads that gaze out over the city. Completed in 1931, it remains remained the tallest building in the British Empire until 1962. The interior of the tower is decorated in classic Art Deco style and holds heritage status. 3 more modern glass and stainless steel buildings, designed by I.M. Pei, were erected in 1972, completing the quad complex. Commerce Court was born. The 4 heads of Commerce Court represent courage, observation, foresight, and enterprise. Formerly BCE Place, Brookfield Place occupies an entire city block in downtown Toronto. The most recent work on this $1.2 billion development was completed between 1990 and 1992 by architects Bregman and Hammond, in cooperation with many others, most notably Santiago Calatrava, whose design won a contest and resulted in the Alan Lambert Galleria, a soaring structure of engineered steel and glass. Postmodern glass, concrete, and steel office towers range in height from 208 to 263 meters. Combined, they house over 2.6 million square feet of office and retail space. The Hockey Hall of Fame inhabits the Old Bank of Montreal, which was built in 1885 by architects Frank Darling and George Curry. The building on the corner of Yonge and Front Street is a Beaux-Arts style structure. Renovations completed in 1991 included specialized masonry conservation, new insulated built-up roof assembly, and extensive sheet-lead weathering and lead-coated flashings. Inside, stained glass conservation work was undertaken, heritage finishes were restored, and the main entrance and vestibule were refurbished. 2 years after the renovation, in 1993, the Hockey Hall of Fame moved in. A ghost named Dorothy is said to haunt the building. She can be seen in an upstairs window or heard in the building's vault, where the Stanley Cup is kept. Peter Dickinson and Earl C. Morgan conceived this modernist structure. When it opened its doors in 1960, it was owned by the O'Keefe Brewing Company. In 1968, ownership was transferred to Metropolitan Toronto, and the theatre took on the moniker Hummingbird Centre, after sponsor Hummingbird Communications. In 2007, Sony took on the role of benefactor. Construction of the St. Lawrence Centre for the Arts began in 1967 as Toronto's Centennial Project. It opened its doors for the first time in 1970. Designed by Gordon S. Adamson and Associates, it is a perfect example of brutalism. With poured concrete, steel, and glass, little has been done to camouflage the structure of this building, making it appear strong and stark in juxtaposition to its function as a centre for the arts. The most recent renovation by Third Uncle Designs updated the interior in 2007. There are currently no plans to modify the facade, despite its unpopularity and visible contrast to the neighborhood style. The Beardmore Building is located at 47 Front Street. The 3.5-story building was designed by architect Walter Strickland in the Second Empire of French Renaissance style and was completed in 1872 or 3. The structure is one of the few remaining buildings in Ontario with a cast iron facade, which was an economical way to emulate carved stone in the period. Underneath the facade is a basic timber construction with brick load-bearing walls at the sides and rear. The only reason the Beardmore was built was because the harbor was filled in 1856, permitting additional warehouses to be constructed. The original Flatiron building dates back to the early 1830s and was originally a 3-story structure named the Coffin Block Building. The name came from the triangular fashion of the design due to the intersecting streets of Church, Wellington, and Front. It was built in 1892 by David Roberts Jr., primarily constructed of red brick, copper, and iron. Originally constructed for a cost of $18,000, it is now worth over $10 million. Examples of the Flatiron Building's French Gothic and Romanesque styles are the Gothic archway over its main entrance and the cornice and frieze features above the arched windows on the 4th floor. Today, it functions as an office building. Since 1803, there has been a market present on this spot since it was first established by Lieutenant Governor Peter Hunter. The first permanent structure was constructed in 1831 between King and Front Streets. That building was destroyed in the Great Fire of 1849 and was the site of today's St. Lawrence Hall. When the civic offices moved to the 3rd City Hall in 1899, it was decided to repurpose the old building into a larger and more efficient market. A huge roof was erected over the entire structure after the cupola, pediment, and side wings were removed. It was nicknamed Siddall's Shed after its architect, John William Siddall. Over the years, the buildings have been renovated, updated, and replaced numerous times. This busy center of commerce is constantly being improved to better serve its patrons. Designed by William Thomas, St. Lawrence Hall is made primarily of stone and is firmly Renaissance Revival. Opened in 1850, it was Toronto's first large meeting place. The Hall has played host to prominent Canadians including Sir John A. Macdonald, George Brown, and Thomas D'Arcy McGee. In 1967, it was declared a National Historic Site and restored as part of the city's Centennial Project. St. Lawrence Hall is marketed today as a classic wedding venue capable of hosting up to 500 and is used by the film industry as a strategic staging area in downtown Toronto. The Hall is named after Canada's patron saint. The St. James Cathedral hosts the oldest congregation within the Greater Toronto Area. The parish formed in 1797, and in 1850, Frederick William Cumberland and Thomas Rideout built the cathedral on the same site as two previous churches. This building was built in the Gothic Revival style, using Ohio stone, brick, and copper, and on June 19th of 1853, the first services were held. It was designated as a Toronto Historic Building on September 26th, 1977. Opened in 1853, Toronto's 7th post office was designed in the neoclassical style by architects Cumberland and Rideout, also responsible for St. James Cathedral. The primarily stone structure features a minimalist cornice supporting the Royal Coat of Arms of Great Britain. The simple, bold symmetry of the facade indicates dignity and prestige, and consequently, it has been one of the most sought-after locations in the city. The building's rear is curved to accommodate the shape of the carriageway, which had a constant train of wagons delivering and picking up mail. Originally a single building constructed in 1852, the building immediately to the north was purchased in 1876. In 1899, David B. Dick designed a facade to unify the two buildings into the single structure, creating the stunning example of Renaissance revival that is the Consumers Gas building we see today. Initially designed as an office space, the location has been repurposed and is now the Rosewater Supper Club, a fitting venue for fine dining.